Alright, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Mafia Scum Modern Super League. We have another match for you today. We are going to be seeing Cow again playing Infect against Khelvaster playing an Eldrazi Tron deck. And so right now I'm going to throw it over to our casters for today's match. Ya and Sudo, take it away.
What's
All
up?
right. So that was something. All right. So this is our second match of the day. I've just finished up playing against Hasdgfas, and he's got his second match coming up. So this match he's going to be playing Khelvaster. He's on Infect, and he'll be playing against Eldrazi Tron. So first off, we'll look at this Infect list since we just saw it. Uh, how do you think this is going to work out in this matchup?
Uh, so Infect is a lot faster, which I think is going to play into the to Infect's advantage here, because in theory he can just get his stuff down, pump it up, and then try to get everything through before Kelv can assemble his Tron to get his actual creatures down, which is I think going to be the deciding factor in this one.
Yeah, in the old days before Probe got banned, and this dropped down a notch. In fact, used to be almost a turn three deck. It was really pushing the speed, and if it can kind of do that here, I'm not sure it has a huge amount of resistance. This is going to be, I think, quite a bit different from the last match. The last match was more sort of like a chess match. Like you had to think, what on earth is going on the other side of the board? What do I have to do about it? There was a lot of interaction. This one, I'm not sure there is. As we turn over to the um, this Eldrazi Tron deck uh, and look at that, what do we have here?
This one I think is going to be much more of a goldfish style matchup. It's basically just going to come down to whether Cow can execute his game plan fast enough. Uh, a lot of his stuff is just going to be completely irrelevant against Khelvaster's threats if Khelvaster is allowed to just play his game. Uh, but Khelvaster, I don't think, has enough fast interaction to stop Cow if Cow gets off to a good draw.
Yeah, I see three dismember, three spatial contortion, main deck. Those are basically what's there for removal. All his dust is way too slow to matter and doesn't take care of Inkmoth Nexuses anyway. So that's six pieces of interaction that he's got. Maybe you could argue for Thought Not Seer if you really wanted to.
Yeah,
But a
Thought Not
lot of the
Seer.
others,
Yes,
yeah,
Thought Not Seer in theory. Everything else I think is just going to be too slow. Hangerback Walker is too slow. Endbringer's too slow. All his dust is probably going to be too slow. Karn, maybe if he can get it down on turn three, but that's going to require him to basically play out his Urza perfectly. Other than that, I think he's just going to be far too slow. This batter skull is not going to matter. Like all of this interaction that he has in his main deck for game one is just not going to matter.
though it is worth mentioning one thing that's hiding. For Ghost Quarters, mo- uh, the big threat for Infect that's usually the hardest to deal with is the Inkmoth Nexus, just because it sits there as a land, and most of the time it's not a creature unless it wants to be. Ghost Quarter can actually handle those things. So instead, it looks like the big threat from the Infect deck is going to be Blighted Agent, because it just can't really be interacted with the creature base. Uh,
Right.
any any idea how we might see this play out games 2, 3?
Uh, the game plan isn't actually going to change all that much, I don't think. It's still going to come down to Infect trying to get out its threats and then play them and race for lethal on that 10 life clock that it has before Khelvaster can really do anything about it. Khelvaster does have some more options. If he can get an early chalice to block all the pump, that could be a big game. He's got surgical extractions in theory that could take out uh, a key pump spell, a become immense or something. Ratchet bomb is a much more effective removal spell, so he's going to have a lot more game in 2 and 3. Even spell skite, because it can absorb all the pump spells that Cow wants to play. It's going to give Khelvaster a lot more game. It's going to be able to allow him to slow down Infect a lot better. but it's still basically
And
come down to whether Cal can get his game plan executed fast enough to stop Khelvaster from taking the game over.
and also there's a pithing needle in there that might be going on some Inkmoth Nexus.
Yeah,
Just to
Kelv has a
stop
lot of
that
options
from
in his
happening.
sideboard that'll give him game, but it's still going to come down to him trying to slow down Infect long enough to stop him from taking over the game.
Yeah, it looks like out of the sideboard we're having a little bit of a chess match between the artifact interaction coming in and the artifact kill that's hanging out in the Infect sideboard. But our players are ready, I think. So let's head down.
Yeah, it looks like they're champing at the bit.
All right, so looking over first, Khelvaster, who
Yeah,
we
Khelvaster's
have.
on the play here.
All right, so Eldrazi Tron is on the play. Looking at his hand, what do we see?
This Gemstone Caverns, that would have been really nice if he was on the draw instead.
Well, 2 lands. He's got an Expedition map. He's got a Spatial Contortion, and he's got a Dismember. I think he's got to keep this.
Yeah, I think he can't throw away the early interaction here. So I think he's got to play out this Urza's Mine. He's got to play out this Expedition map, hold up the Spatial Contortion, and try to draw it into his Urza land so they can maybe get down this Thought-Knot Seer to try to strip the threats out of Cow's hand.
Yeah, this is the kind of hand that might steal it. What do you see on the other side?
Let's see, Cow. He's got the Glistener Elf for turn 1, the turn 2 Blighted Agent, so he's got a couple of resilient threats. No Inkmoth Nexus, but he does have the Blossoming Defense for protection. So, I mean, that'll be big game against the Spatial Contortion, I think, but most of Khelvaster's removal relies on mass removal. So if he can get down that All Is Dust, which is questionable, Blossoming Defense isn't going to do anything, but it will be nice and early protection against the Spatial Contortion. So I think both sides have to keep here just because this 2 threats, Pendelhaven and Blossoming Defense, is too good to give up.
Yeah, there's a few more lands, and I think he might like, but I don't think you can mulligan this. So let's see. Khelvaster has already chosen. And
Yeah,
Cow's also going to keep. All right, so here we go. For turn 1, we are going to see.
I think mine Expedition map is the only play here.
Yeah, you don't really want to show the Gemstone Caverns. That's just a sign of weakness.
Well, plus, I think one of Khelvaster's best plays here is to try to get the Tron turn 3 if he can, and Gemstone Caverns is going to slow that down. But
Right,
I
it
guess I'm
doesn't
wrong.
set up for that. But looks like he's playing it. And playing the Expedition map. This is a little bit weird with land choice.
Yeah, that means there's no turn
moving
3 Tron here.
Moving over, draw is a wooded foothills. That is not what he wanted to see. We're going to have a windswept heath. That's going to get cracked. Probably basic forest. There's no reason to take damage here. He's already got the breeding pool in his hand.
That said, his life total is basically irrelevant here. So, I mean, if he does get a shock land, it's not going to matter all that much.
Well, it looks like he agrees. So Shockland, and here comes a Glistener.
Yeah, basically the only play here. Probably Pendelhaven next turn. I don't think he's going to value that above the Blighted Agent.
And he's going to be sorry to see a removal spell here. Although there is an option for mistake here, in that there's a Hangerback Walker that just got drawn.
Yeah, Hangerback Walker has this weird interaction with Infect decks, by the way, because the -1/-1 counters from Infect take the +1/+1 counters off the Hangerback Walker. That also makes Hangerback Walker weaker when it dies. So, I mean, I don't
Right,
know
you
how relevant that's going to be in this matchup.
don't
But
get the
it's,
flyer. Yeah, it depends on if there's an Inkmoth Nexus on the other side of the road. Oh, he should have just killed right there. We have Urza's Mine and a pass. Maybe from watching the last game, he thinks he's playing a control deck. You should just kill that creature when you have the chance, because you do not want to give them a chance to untap and suddenly have protection up. Draws a Glistener Elf.
Yeah, in this case, he would have just played the second Glistener Elf, but yeah, he was tapped, so he really wanted to get a kill there while he couldn't Blossoming Defense in response.
Yep. Pendlehaven, swing.
As expected, he's probably going to value the Pendlehaven pump over playing out this Blighted Agent because that'll allow him to hold up the Blossoming Defense as a protection.
So the game happens, 1 poison on, and it's going to be Blighted Agent.
Yeah, I guess I'm just calling them all wrong today.
Yeah, I think I would have been tempted to do the Glistener Elf too. So this is, he's just going to tap the Expedition map on end of turn. This is fine, as long as he takes one of these off the table. Well, this is actually fun, actually pretty good. He's going to get another Urzel land, and then he's going to be able to do both Spatial Contortion and Dismember in the same turn.
Or he can fetch an Eldrazi Temple and they'll allow him to play out the Thought-Knot Seer.
Sure, although that's taking your life in your hand. Well, depending on what's on the other side of the table, that could be taking your life in your hands because you cannot block the Blighted Agent.
Yeah, but we saw that he's not necessarily all gung ho on getting removal out fast, so he might just try to get out the Thought-Knot Seer to strip a pump spell, and then have a chump blocker.
All right, looks like it's a tower, so he's going for Tron. That means we are not going to be seeing that Thought-Knot Seer unless he draws a temple. Nope, it's another map.
So it's going to be interesting to see if he decides that it's worth holding up this map a second time, or if he's just going to go for the removal while Cow is tapped out.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I would say the removal is the better play, but he's already proven once that he's willing to hold up the Expedition map instead.
Right. I tend to agree. I just want those things off the table when I can.
Yeah, I mean, Cow plays so much protection that it's difficult to remove these threats. A lot harder than you would expect for creatures that don't have hexproof.
So Khelvaster goes into the tank. He's still on 1 poison, so he's got some space to maneuver if he needs it. Plenty of life, though that's probably not how this is going to happen. Cow is still on 17.
Yeah, I don't think either player's life total matters all that much because if Cow loses control of the board too early,
Looks like it's a
Cow's
map
just
and
going
a
to
pass.
hold him up on
This
the map a
could be
second time.
dangerous. Cow draws a Hierarch. That's a pretty good draw.
Yeah, it's another pump, and it's going to. I mean, he can't get either creature outside of Dismember range, but with the Blossoming Defense, it's probably not going to matter.
Yeah, it also gives him more mana to work with on future turns. If he draws past this glut of land and starts drawing into action, that Hierarch will really help him out. Breeding Pool untapped,
Yeah, he can
so
play out
he's
the
down
Hierarch
50.
here, and then he'll have Exalted, Pendlehaven, and Blossoming Defense all open. So he's got some options.
Yeah, this is looking good. So Hierarch hits the table, Pendlehaven targeting Blighted Agent. Waiting to see if there's a response.
Looks like
That
he's going
gets
to
the
let it go.
go-ahead. And here's the swing with the trigger is, remember, that's going to be for 3.
Yeah, Blighted Agent is currently a 3/4 after the Pendlehaven and Exalted buffs. So it's already out of Spatial Contortion range.
So the big Infect deck trick. What happens here if we see a Spatial Contortion?
If he sees
We
a Spatial
won't.
Contortion, I think he just lets it go because it's a 3/4, and the Spatial Contortion makes it a 6/1, which I think Cow
True,
would
it
be
would have,
perfectly fine with.
true. But the reason you do it, he's probably cracking the map, is he? He's just going to go for Tron. But the one problem is, of course, if you try for anything during combat, suddenly the blossoming defense comes down. Not only did your removal not work, but you're taking 2 extra poison.
Right. And I think that's one of the things that I think Khelvasters or should be trying to do, besides accidentally dragging all those power plants onto the field, is
I did not know that was a thing you could do. Okay, so we found the power plant.
yeah. So he's got the Tron here. I just don't know that he's got anything that's going to matter all that much because he can play
And a
out this
Mind
reality
Slaver?
smasher now.
You just drew a Mind Slaver. That doesn't really do anything, I don't think.
Yeah, he's only got 7 mana here, so he can't activate the Mind Slaver on the same turn. And even if he did, it's not like there's anything in Cow's hand that would really hurt him, except losing a turn, I guess. So it's just a really expensive time walk here.
There's 8 mana available. There's where it starts to get interesting. We're going to see a Reality Smasher. No, we're going to see a Thought Knot Seer with 1 mana floating.
Yeah, he can take the Blossoming Defense here. So that'll make his Dismember good on the next turn.
Or right now. Yeah, it'll also make the Spatial Contortion good.
Yeah, he has the mana to play out both once he takes away that Blossoming Defense. Unless Cow tries to do some next level stuff right now and play out the Blossoming Defense.
Nope.
But then he can just Dismember in response.
He's shown the hand. So that... And it is the Blossoming Defense that's going to go.
Absolutely expected.
Yeah. Well, that opens up the removal.
Yeah, now he can... he's just going to let it go.
Okay.
I think letting him have the draw here before you kill his stuff is probably not wise. Especially since he just got that Apostle's
Blessing. But can an Apostle's Blessing actually... It can't stop anything.
It blocks Dismember, but it doesn't block...
It blocks Dismember, but it does not stop a Spatial Contortion. It's only artifacts or colors. Colorless is not a color. So
yeah, you can't choose colorless off the Apostle's Blessing, so it'll block Dismember at least. That's something.
On attack, trigger happens. This is his last chance to use that Spatial Contortion and have it work.
Yeah, he has to do it in response, otherwise it becomes a 3/4 and then it's out of Spatial Contortion range.
Are we going to see it?
Yeah, he's going to try to Dismember.
This is not going to work out.
Yeah, so that'll Dismember, but he's just going to Apostle's Blessing in response. And then maybe we see the Spatial Contortion in response to that.
He can't. He doesn't have enough mana. Oh, yeah, he does. Oh, there's 2 over there, and yours is mine.
Yeah, he's got plenty of mana. Because the Xerxes mine is worth 2.
Still, using 2 removal spells, the only 2 that he has, to get rid of 1 Blighted Agent, might be a problem down the line.
Yeah, that's part of the unfortunate price you pay when you don't want to do it while your opponent's tapped out. But at the same time, this did allow him to get Tron online, and maybe he's got enough fat that he can bludgeon his way through anyway.
He just took it. He went to 7.
That's weird. I don't know why he's playing this way, but maybe he's banking on getting an All His Dust or something on his next turn.
Fetch land, 3rd Infector, and a Glister Elf. And pass the turn.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Khelvaster's playing at, but maybe he sees the next level line.
This is very dangerous. So while it is
Khelvaster,
true that holding up interaction and pretending that you have it can slow the infect deck down for a while, at some point you have to have it. You can't just let them keep chipping in for 2 or 3. They're going to eventually kill you.
yeah, being able to chip for 2 is big game when you only need to get to 10 to win.
Draws a reality smasher, second one of those. He's still at 8 mana, and Cow is at 13. This is not enough to kill. Here's the spatial contortion. This will
Surprised it
work.
took him this long. Yeah, I don't know why he didn't save himself 7, but I guess you do what you must.
Well, that was required here. He needed to do something or else he was taking the final 3 next turn. And this is going to be a okay, he's just counting out the mana right now. We used the power plant for the spatial distortion. Now we use 5. That's a reality smasher. It is staying back. All shields up because there's 2 attackers and neither of those can get through. All right, so here's game state right now. My partner's headed off to answer the phone for a second. We're cracking a wooded foothills. That will take Cow down to 12. He is going to fetch the last of his, or a forest here, which may be the last of his fetchable lands. Yes, 2 breeding pool, 2 forests. So the last land he has is in hand. Draw is Twisted Image. Well, to redraw.
Sorry about that, but needs must.
All right, so we have all shields up for Eldrazi Tron, but this could get a little bit messy very quickly for the Infect player. There's 9 power over there. He's at 12. There's another Reality Smasher in hand. So as long as he doesn't die, next turn, he's going to be forcing a lot of chump blocks.
Yeah, this is an interesting decision point right now, and it appears that Kel's gamble has paid off a bit. He's got these 2 attackers, but obviously he can't get either one of them through. And meanwhile, if he does try it, then the crackback is potential lethal.
I think Cow's just got a Twisted Image something. Go for the redraw. It's not going to do anything else. And he's going to. Sure. Twisted Image on his own creature. That's actually interesting. Does he want a Pendlehaven in response? Maybe?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is that if you Pendlehaven, then distort, then Twisted Image, and you get a 3/2 instead of a 2/3, which I think is more relevant here. But
He does not seem to be holding priority.
no, I
Nope,
think he
that's
mostly
just
just wants the card draw here.
Mutagenic Growth.
So that's nice pump. So he's got lethal in hand if he can ever get anything through.
Do you just try to trade this?
I mean, possible. I don't think there's any world in which Kel doesn't block in response, though.
Well, if it trades something off, I mean, the nice thing is if it trades with Thought-Knot Seer, you get an extra card.
Right, and I think at this point, Cow is just desperately trying to dig for something like an ink moth nexus that can fly over these big ground fatties.
Or a Distortion Strike that makes him irrelevant.
Right, just basically anything that can get him through at this point.
Right. It's a 4/3, he says. Switch target creature's power and toughness until end of turn.
Yeah, I forget how the layers work, but I think that the earlier timestamp on Twisted Image is a problem.
Well, Cow is a judge, so he's explaining the layers right now. Yep, power toughness switching is the last layer, so it gets applied last. You have Reality Smasher blocking. This is going to meet a mutagenic growth for its alternate casting cost of a forest. Okay, they're working out the rules right now. So what's happening is the wording on Twisted Image says until the end of the turn this happens. So basically this applies last. So whenever you put stuff on top of this, which has happened, so the Pendlehaven has happened, and then the Pendlehaven's the most important one. That makes it a 2/3 creature, but because things are switched until the end of the turn, it sees it as if it's a 3/2. And then, of course, the other stuff has happened.
Right, it's not often you have to worry about layering, but we got that joy in this one.
Mm-hmm. And this is a smart way to work it instead of going all the way in on the Pendlehaven right away when you don't have to, because Cow did not know what he was going to draw off that Twisted Image, and that might have changed how he played.
Right, he basically just played the Twisting Image as a cantrip, and the fact that it happens to switch power and toughness just turned out to be a bonus in this case.
So he's explaining us this all works in layers and things that basically this is the most confusing part for most people of the magic rules, but uh, because a bunch of continuous effects can happen on one creature at the same time, they have what are called layers. And basically that means this happens first, this happens second, this happens third, and so on in the order that they happen whenever you're dealing with a bunch of these different things. And effects that switch power and toughness are always the last thing that apply, while these little pumping effects that are also continuous will apply a little bit earlier.
Right, it's one of the key differences from a game like Hearthstone, where everything applies to the order in which it's cast. In this one, different effects happen on different layers, so you can have a later effect trump an earlier effect, which is a little counterintuitive for new players.
So we have a block of everything. Thought-Knot Seer is going to go on first because that draw is valuable.
Yeah, it's interesting here that he chooses to double block, I guess because he's afraid of another pump effect that would allow him to just eat a Thought-Knot Seer.
Yeah,
But
in this way, the mutagenic growth can just stay in hand. It never has to get used. That was a 4/3 that went in.
right, whereas if he had just blocked with a Thought-Knot Seer, Cal might have had the temptation to play the mutagenic growth to eat the Thought-Knot Seer in response.
So you have another forest. He's got 2 mutagenic growths in hand right now. That second mutagenic growth was the draw off the Thought-Knot Seer.
And now he's got enough to eat this Reality Smasher if he
If
tries
it
to block
comes
it.
in. He's going to be sad, though, when he sees that there's a second Reality Smasher. That said, he's at 12. And if Kelv attacks with both Reality Smashers, he can just take it and hopefully swing back for the win. So pass the turn.
Yeah, and if he can get this Mindslaver down, then he has some tricks where he can Mindslaver force Cow to swing and then put both the mutagenic growths on his Reality Smasher or something like that.
Oh, that's a good one. There's a Dismember. That might have just locked us up.
Yeah, if he plays it now, because Cow can't get this Glistener Elf out of Dismember range at the moment, but if he's allowed to play on the next turn and go to attacks, then he's got more pump effects available.
And that's what's going to happen. Here's the Dismember.
Yeah, and that means that this Reality Smasher and the other one can probably just get in. Not lethal yet, but certainly unpleasant.
Yeah, well, there's enough mana for that second Reality Smasher. And there's even enough for a Hangerback Walker on 1 if he wants it. After this swing for 10. It's all going face. Cow drops to 2.
Yeah, Cow doesn't have any haste effects. So, I mean, there's not really any point to playing out this Hangerback Walker. But, I mean, if he just wants to get it out of his hand as a potential jumper, that's probably fine.
Well, it is relevant in that Khelvaster is at 12. So there's 5 regular damage that could come across from just the mutagenic growth and everything, and there's a become event. This is why you would want that, just in case something wacky happens. It's not quite enough. It's only 11, but it's real close.
Yeah, I mean, the super secret win con, I guess you want to protect against. Because, in theory, he could just become immense mutagenic growth and try to beat in with a Noble Hierarch. I don't think you're normally
there's
afraid
a
of
chump
that.
block, and that's going to be the game.
Yeah, in that case, I don't think it matters.
No, it was just barely short in terms of the damage, but that's what happens sometimes.
So looking at sideboard
let's
options.
Look at the sideboards. Cal first. What do you think is going to happen here?
I don't think Cow has a ton of options here. Nature's Claim, in order to try to prevent something like a Oblivion Stone from going off. He's also got Ratchet Bombs and Pithing Needles and Chalice of the Voids he might be worried about, so I would probably see those. Maybe you bring in some of the counter spells, but I think ultimately Cow is just going to try to race, because if as we saw there, if the Eldrazi deck takes over, then he's just out of luck probably. So I think he's probably going to limit the sideboard options just to try to keep his deck list as tight as possible on the racing plan.
Yeah, the one consideration here might be to destroy an artifact that probably is not going to be affected by Chalice, which is the problem with Nature's Claim. If the Chalice goes down on 1, you suddenly can't kill it. And
right, he's got Nature's Claim and Viridian Corruptor.
So you might see a Viridian Corruptor as well.
Yeah.
On the other side, what might we be seeing?
On the other side, Chalice of the Void, as we talked about, because Chalice on 1 shuts off huge parts of Cow's deck. Pithing Needle, he's got 1, and that can turn off Inkmoth Nexus. The Spell Skites can turn off all the pump spells. Surgical Extraction is a maybe, because it can take out a mutagenic growth or something like that. It can be a big game. Ratchet Bomb is a lot more effective as a mass removal than All Is Dust, because you can play it down early, get it to 1, and then that wipes most of the threats. Ratchet Bomb on 1 takes out all of the Glistener Elves and the one mana dork. On 2, you take out the on 2 it takes out the Blighted Agents. On 0, it can take out Inkmoth Nexus, and because it's an outright destroy effect that doesn't actually target, you can't try to pump out of it, and you can't find the Vastwood or Apostle's Blessing out of it. So, well, Apostle's Blessing you can, because it's a destroy effect, but still.
Right, and a lot of this is how much he can take out. So what do you think is leaving here?
All Is Dust is mostly useless here. Karn is probably too slow. Mindslaver is too slow. Batter Skull doesn't really do enough. So I wouldn't be surprised to see those 5 come out. Spatial Contortion. I don't think you take that out, because it's still a removal spell that Apostle's Blessing can't protect from. But as we saw in that game, Cow doesn't have a particularly difficult time pumping out of Spatial Contortion range. So that's kind of a questionable removal. Endbringer is probably too slow. Hangerback Walker is probably just a temp blocker in this matchup. So those are options to come out as well if you're really hurting for space.
Probably Relic.
Uh, Relic of Progenitus can come out. I mean, it is a cantrip and it's a cheap one, so I'd be tempted to leave it in. But it doesn't really do anything against Cow's deck except cantrip. So you can
And
take it out.
possibly slow down and become immense. But that's probably marginal. The surgical extractions, I think, seem a little bit better. And a lot of control decks, what you want to do with surgical extraction is kill one of their creatures and then extract it. So get rid of all their blighted agents. You never have to worry about them again. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be tempted to leave Relic in just for the cantrip, but because I think that's more relevant than a lot of the other slower spells. But it is a removal option if you're not into it.
So they're still in the process of sideboarding here. Sorry, something in the background decided to be annoying. So we've seen 4 chalices go in, 2 spell skites, and out came a ghost quarter, 3 of the hangerback walkers, and also the 2 all is dust, and I believe the Mindslaver and the Batter Skull.
Yeah, not really a ton of surprises. Those chalices are going to be big game if he can get them out fast enough to shut off basically all of Cow's action.
Okay, so we are back. We'll just give them a minute to load back up the decks and fix the sideboards back up. All right, you there?
Indeed, just waiting around.
All right, sorry about that. Sometimes the internet around here is held together with bubble gum and monkey droppings.
Well, if you didn't insist on running your wire through the chicken coop.
Actually, I think it's going in the other direction than chicken coop, but regardless. Okay, they're still fixing stuff up. So while they're doing that, amusing story. You know how there's like first world problems, right? So third world problems. Here's a thing that actually happened last year. The entire country, for the most of a day, lost power because a monkey got into a generating station, basically somehow got through all the fencing and all that, tripped a transformer inside a fence, and just refused to leave for hours.
Well, they are nature's clowns.
Yeah. As it turned out, so are to some extent the staff of the generating station, who, after phoning the Kenya Wildlife Service to get the monkey out of there, proceeded to sit around, take pictures of the monkey on their cell phones, and upload them to Facebook.
Well, you can't just shoot a monkey.
Well, no, that would be mean. You can't do that.
Unless it was a gibbon, in which case, screw those guys.
No, I think it was like an olive monkey, like one of those. Anyway, you can actually find pictures of this if you look. I assume they're still around. So yeah, random things sometimes you have to deal with.
Yeah, so just go onto Google and then search for pictures of monkeys, and I'm sure it'll be in there somewhere.
Hmm.
How
All
many
right, so
pictures of
now
monkeys
we
could there
are
possibly be?
quite a few. I know I've taken some.
Well, in any event, it looks like we've got the sideboard straightened back out, almost.
All right, so Cow did his again. He's all set. He's going to play first. We still have Khelvaster working this out. Just to check. Okay,
Yeah,
the
the
sideboard
math is a little
saved
bit
with it.
screwy because he's playing a 61 card main deck for some reason.
Right. Although technically he doesn't need to board out one. Remember, the rules on sideboarding have changed. So the only thing that matters now is that the deck you present has to be always at least 60 cards. But after that, you can actually add more cards from your sideboard if you wish. It's not a one-for-one trade anymore.
Right, although we still see people just play the 60-15 combo all the time anyway.
Right, and that's normally best just because of probability, but you don't have to. For example, let's say you had a deck that had extra lands and you were playing a mill deck, you might decide you want some extra time against the mill deck, shove all 15 cards from your sideboard into your deck, shuffle it up, and go with that. That's perfectly legal.
Although I'll point out that you played a mill deck and you still only played 60.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to dilute my land base that much. His deck actually
So your
still does
argument is sort of
something.
self-defeating, isn't it?
Well, I'm arguing about the reality, about the legality of it, not the practicality.
Kel's still struggling to figure out what it is he wants to take out.
Yeah, one card. Last time it was third hanger backwalker that you check out. You'll notice the pithing heel is not coming in. Either he hasn't noticed or he's not concerned about the Inkmoth Nexus.
Right. Well, Inkmoth Nexus, in theory, can be taken out by the Ratchet Bomb just fine. And if he gets a Chalice down on, say, for one, although I'm pretty sure that once Chalice hits the board, it's CMC 0. So the Ratchet Bomb will take that out too.
Also, he's taking out one Ghost Quarter, which removes another one of the ways you're dealing with Nexus.
Maybe he just has no fear.
Maybe he doesn't.
We saw him play pretty fearlessly in that first game, and it worked out well for him. So maybe he's
Yeah,
trying
he
it
got
again.
lucky that the hand across from him mana flooded, had a few extra lands that it really wanted, but it wasn't the kind of hand you can really afford to mulligan.
Right. I mean, they had to go with what they had, and it worked out that his more aggressive line just did the job.
Right. Okay, turns out he's decided that all 4 hanger backwalkers should go out. He's dropped down to 60 cards now, which is perfectly fine.
Yep. Still weird that he plays 61 game one, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, in deck building, maybe something like the Mindslaver could have not been in there, but the deck is the way it is. And now sideboarding is done for both players. It is completed as it was before. Players are shuffling up. Hold on a second.
He went back to 61 in the main right before he
He went
shuffled
back
up.
to 61 in the main. Let me just check what happened there. I see 4 hanger backwalkers back here, and the 2 spell skites have gone in. The 4 chalices have gone in. There's still one all is dust, I believe. I believe he's playing with 3 of them total. Yes, he is. He still has an all is dust in the deck right now.
Well, in any event, so we've got opening hands, and Cal has a Hierarch, Blighted Agent, Dismember, and a bunch of lands, which I could see being an easy mulligan.
This, yeah, you want the threats, but this is kind of awkward. Uh, it's not fast, and it doesn't have protection. What are you seeing on the other side?
Let's see. Kelv has uh, he has the Chalice, which is going to be big game, but then he doesn't have anything until Thought-Knot Seer. He's got one piece of Tron. He's got the Mine, but he doesn't have any other pieces, and he doesn't have any way to fetch any more pieces. So he's threatening to get stuck on 2 lands here, which
And one of those lands is a Ghost Quarter, which helps him against Enigma of Nexus that might be on the other side. That might be a consideration. But on the other
right.
hand, he doesn't have the ability with that land to play any tricks. Sometimes you're able to, if you have enough basics in your deck and you want them, you can sort of use your Ghost Quarter on your own land after tapping it and get an extra land untapped and kind of do some wonky form of ramping for one turn. That doesn't really look like an option here.
No, and this hand has a high, he's got the Chalice, which is really nice, but he doesn't. He's only got 2 lands and no way of fetching more, and he doesn't have anything else he can play on 2 mana. So this is a hand that threatens to just die to mana screw if he keeps it.
Yeah, I could see him. I could see him risking it, but it just could backfire if he does.
And he's got no
So
removal in hand either, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him ship this.
that's also true. So we're gonna see what they do. Cow is deciding to mulligan. Yeah, that's what we figured. But the 6-card hand has no threats.
Yeah, it's got some protection. It's got a removal, but it doesn't do anything. It's got no creatures. It's got no ink moth. It's got nothing. So I would probably see
This
this
is
get
not
shipped
a
as
keep.
well.
This is not a keep.
Yeah, I think you can't keep that at all.
Um, Looks like Khelvaster's still deciding.
Or he's forgotten that you alternate mulligan decisions.
True, that is one thing that's been changing every so often as they try to streamline the beginning of the game stuff. Looks like he's still considering.
Yeah, this is a hand that could be really good against a mold of 6 if you
Well,
can get lands.
this
But
is
yeah,
the better mold to 6.
yeah, he's got the spatial contortion. He's got the Chalice of the Void, so in theory he can still do stuff.
And he's
Spatial
got a
contortion.
Ghost Quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got options.
Ooh.
Yeah, Cow
Mulligan
goes
down
to
to
5.
5 by Cow, and
It's not a
I
good
don't.
5.
It's not good.
I hate to see somebody lose on a mole, but I mean, Cow may have no option but to either try to keep this and make something happen, or mold a 4.
This hand does nothing.
This hand does nothing. If he can top deck a Glistener Elf, then it might be worth a try. But I don't know if you can
He's
count
on
on
the
that.
play. He's on the play. That's going to be slow.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what are you going to do? You either do this and you try to rip something, or you uh,
Or
mold
you
a 4.
bet.
And I don't think that molding the 4 is a key to victory either.
Well, if there's a deck that can do something on a multi, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, he's
he's
going to go
mulling
to
to 4.
4.
And this is actually a hand that does something.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the
Got
turn 1
turn 1
Glistener Elf.
Glistener Elf,
He's got the
Blossoming
Pendlehaven. He's got
Defense.
Blossoming Defense. This could be.
This is not bad.
It's not a bad 4. I mean, it's still a mold of 4, but it's not a terrible 4.
The problem, of course, is going to be across from him. Chalice is going to come down first, and then Spatial Contortion. And it's going to be really hard.
Yeah, I mean, Pendlehaven turns it into a 2/3, but if Chalice of the Void comes down, then he can't pump out of Spatial Contortion range. And so
Yeah.
this might just be a loss because he can't do anything about that.
And the card that went to the bottom was just a land.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to find some action here
So
because
that makes sense. Scry on the other side.
looks like he's tanking on his scry, or he hasn't figured out how to
Mhm.
do it.
No, I think he's figured out how to do it by now. And it's being kept on top.
Not good news.
It's probably what he would want. It's an expedition map.
Yeah, so they'll give him something to do on turn 1, and then Chalice on 2, and then he's got
And
either
he's
the
got 2 pieces of Tron, and he can go to the races. So turn 1, Pendlehaven into Glistener Elf.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah,
You see, he didn't uh, crack the Misty Rainforest here because I assumed that he doesn't want to shuffle back that land to the top
right.
before he can draw.
Yeah. And Khelvaster's first turn should be the power plant coming down. I don't see any reason to show the Ghost Quarter right yet.
Yeah, Ghost Quarter and Pendlehaven can be good, but I think in this case you just save it because there's no point taking it out right away.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't be surprised to see Ghost Quarter taking out Pendlehaven on a
Yeah,
future turn.
eventually. Yeah, eventually, just not now. All right, so the draw is that expedition route right to the top. And again, he plays the weaker land first. It's Ghost Quarter that's going to be giving us an expedition, not, or maybe not.
Yeah, I think he's just going to go for it.
Okay.
It's not like he's
Well,
not
now
going to
you
play
might as
both
well.
lands anyway.
Yeah, now you might as well. You've already shown it. You might as well not show more. So here comes the expedition map. And turn goes back. And the draw is a land. Fetch land. Wait for
Basically,
this.
the exact opposite of everything you wanted to see.
Yep, needs more action right now. So we're going to see a swing for 2 with the Pendlehaven. And there's nothing that can be done across the table. And he's just cracking it now. This is probably just to do a little bit of deck thinning in the hopes that he's not going to draw more lands.
Yeah, I would be tempted there just to save it because he did scry land to the bottom, which is basically the same as a virtual crack here. But
True.
I don't think it matters all that much from a statistical standpoint.
And it's going to be a breeding pool untapped just to keep that defense up. Turns passed back.
Yeah, and I think
And
he
the
can.
draw is a waste.
Yeah, and I think he can just play out the wastes or the power plant if he wants. Drop this Chalice of the Void and then just make Cow cry.
Yeah, that's what he should be doing. Although we've seen him have put a lot of priority on cracking Expedition Map in the past. So it's possible he just passes here and just holds up Spatial Contortion. Probably not correct,
Yeah, I think
but
that's the wrong
we've
line.
seen him do that. Okay, it's going to be Chalice.
Yeah, and there's just nothing Cow can do about it.
Yeah, this is going to make it very hard. All right, there's another 2 coming across. Ugh, Noble Hierarchy.
Which might as well just be a blank card at this point.
Yep, that does nothing. Now the third land is useful because the third land, if he draws a Viridian Corruptor, means that he can get another Infector on the field and get rid of that Chalice. But he's basically drawing the Viridian Corruptor right now.
Yeah. This is just going to be too slow otherwise. He's got the Ghost Quarter for the Ink Moth Nexus. He's got the Chalice of the Void blocking almost all of the pump. So basically, it's like Viridian Corruptor and Blighted Agent are his only two playables in his deck at the moment.
Draw was a Thought-Knot Seer. He's just going to play the Wastes and pass and return Crack Fetch.
I think we're going to see the Spatial Contortion in response to the crack.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yep. And that is a Dead Elf.
Yeah, that means that he's basically just down to the Viridian Corruptor as an out here, which is not where Cal wants to be.
Yeah.
But this Bold of 4 was always going to be a difficult one to win.
Mm-hmm. Blighted Agent. That's a live card.
It's alive. It's a very slow clock, but it's alive.
Well, it's 3 turns.
Well, yeah, I guess with the Pendelhaven pump, it does represent a 3-turn threat.
And there's no removal across. There's a Ghost Quarter. He might just, well, either he Thought-Knot Seers, which doesn't really interact with what's happening, or he Ghost Quarters the Pendelhaven to slow this down and cracks the Expedition map to set up for next turn.
I think that's the line. I think you Ghost Quarter the Pendelhaven, make the Blighted Agent a 6-turn clock, and then you worry about cracking this Expedition map and getting your stuff online. Looks like he's going to Thought-Knot Seer.
It's going to be a Thought-Knot Seer, which is going to see a couple of 1-drops. Not what he wanted to see over there.
Yeah, and this Thought-Knot Seer just doesn't interact with this Blighted Agent at all. It can't block, can't anything.
Yeah. And Khelvaster is not happy.
Yeah, I think he was hoping that he could nail a Viridian Corruptor or whatever that he was bringing in. So he took the flyer on the Thought-Knot Seer. But I think he's realizing now that just Ghost Quartering away the Pendelhaven would have been a better play.
Well, draws another blank, finds a Vastwood. Note the extra cost on there is an additional cost as you cast the spell, but it does not change the card's converted mana cost, which is just the thing in the corner. So it's still got a converted mana cost of 1. It's still going to get stopped by that Chalice. And we see the usual swing. Khelvaster goes to 6 poison. Draw is a Cavern, which is going to have to name something. And then Ghost Quarter on Pendelhaven.
He could name something like Spirit just to really screw with Cow if he wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to name Eldrazi because that's what this deck does, but
it's not as though Cow runs any counters, and all the Eldrazi want colorless anyway, so.
Yeah, you still have to do it, is the issue.
Right, it's just in this particular matchup, what you name on Cavern doesn't actually affect anything.
Right. So Cow will fetch a Forest off that Ghost Quarter. And we have named Eldrazi. So that slowed the clock down at the cost of a land, so those 2 Reality Smashers are stranded in his hand just for now, but they'll come out next turn because there's an Expedition map to find that 5th land.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a 4-turn clock down on him, but at the same time, these Reality Smashers plus that Thought-Knot Seer is a 2-turn clock, so I don't think he's feeling particularly concerned.
Now, there is, of course, one card that could just end this right away if Cow draws it. Because there's nothing to stop it becoming that.
Yeah, Become Immense is big game, but I don't
Dismember.
know that's going to matter.
Dismember. That is live.
Gets around Chalice. He can
And it's going to
dismember
draw
this.
a card.
Yeah, he's going to take out this Thought-Knot Seer. That's not going to change the fact that he's still on a 2-turn clock. But
Well, it's now it's sure. I mean, he's down to 8 life. Here comes the draw. It's another Pendlehaven.
I mean, that's one of his only hopes to race here. So it's certainly something.
Yeah, I mean, you have to drop it. And but why is he not dropping it? Did I miss something? He's just holding it in hand.
I guess. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happening there.
Because that, I mean, he would have had to Ghost Quarter it, but that forces the Ghost Quarter off the table. So, I mean, it doesn't really slow down the Reality Smasher because you can just fetch an Eldrazi Temple.
Right. I think maybe that was the fear, is that Pendlehaven is one of his only outs to actually win this game. So he wants to be able to drop it and activate it in a turn where he would have the win. Because then
It's not an out anymore. Fetches for Tower.
I think Eldrazi Temple would have been a better fetch here, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to matter all that much. But it could make a difference, because then now if he cracks the Ghost Quarter, he goes down on mana.
Right.
And there's a second expedition map, so it probably won't make any difference at all.
Now that one just gets to be free.
Well, actually, you can't play the expedition
no,
map
you
through the
can't play
Chalice
both.
anyway, but what are you going to do?
True. Also, he can't play 2 lands in 1 turn. So,
Well, no, but he could have played, if he had Eldrazi Temple, he could have fetched out another one, and then he would have plenty of mana for these Reality Smashers, even after cracking Ghost Quarter. But like I said, it's probably not going to matter at all.
So here's a Reality Smasher. It's going to swing. That will drop Cow down to 3. Got a Pendlehaven in hand. He just needs one other way to.
That does nothing.
That is a blank.
Which would be fun. If Chalice was not on the board here, then Pendlehaven plus Twisted Image would be a win. But, of course, Chalice says no.
No, well, even Vines of Ashwood would be a win.
Right. That, like I mentioned when we were talking about sideboard options, this Chalice of the Void on 1 just shuts down almost all of Cow's deck. It's just a very brutal card here.
Yeah. And it was basically covered regardless. I still think Pendlehaven was better last turn, force him to use the Ghost Quarter, but this only takes him up to 9.
Yeah, all that playing the Pendlehaven would have done last turn is that it would have forced him to get an Eldrazi Temple instead of a Urza piece in order to win.
Yeah, you get the reshuffle. He's playing it out and seeing if Kelv remembers his triggers, but yeah, nothing to be done here.
Yeah, there's just not anything you can do. I mean, the mull of 4, he got surprisingly close for having the mull all the way to 4, but I mean, it was just going to be insane.
Yeah, he was down to only 1 pump spell in his deck, that being Become Immense. So he had to draw that, or a lot earlier he had to draw a Viridian Corruptor to take care of the Chalice. But sometimes the deck just does not cooperate.
Yeah, that was just an unfortunate draw. Khelvaster was actually removal light, so if he hadn't gotten the Chalice down so quick, or if Cal had found his Become Immense or his Viridian Corruptor faster, he could have taken that game, but there was just nothing he could do off the early Chalice into so many blanks in a row.
Hmm. So that's going to be the game. Uh, that will be 2-0 to the Eldrazi Tron deck. Wasn't exactly what we thought would happen, but one of
No,
those games, the deck just refused to behave, and there was some flooding happening in game one as well.
yeah, game one, you usually would expect Infect to be heavily favored in game one, but it turned out that he just got flooded. He didn't get enough action fast enough, and the Urza Eldrazi was able to just take over the game. Game
Hmm.
two was always going to be rough because the Tron deck just has so much stuff that comes in out of the sideboard to make its matchups more relevant. Uh, and then the Mola 4 as well just kind of screwed Cow over.
Yeah, plus the Chalice, which is just a complete beating.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this was always going to be a rough matchup after he lost game one, but this was just completely brutal in game two.
I mean, it did end up being closer than you would expect. We did get Khelvaster up to 9 poison somehow off of a 4-card hand, but just not quite enough.
Yeah, Glistener Raven, Elf Pendlehaven is about as good a 4 as you can hope for, but it just wasn't enough, wasn't fast enough.
Yeah. All right. So that is our second match of the night.
Yeah, so thank you to the
Mhm.
casters and the players for the second match of the night. Quicker match than the other one, certainly, due to some unfortunate draws. I believe this is going to be it for us for tonight. So we are signing off for now. There's a possibility that maybe there'll be another game tonight, but I don't believe there is. In which case, we will see you on Wednesday. Thanks for watching, everyone.